I'm John Pfeffer, co-director of Foreign Policy in Focus here at the Institute for Policy Studies in Washington, D.C. And I'm talking with Michael Klare, who's a professor at Hampshire College and the author of many books, including most recently Rising Power, Shrinking Planet. We're here to talk about the issue of empire, U.S. empire, whether it is rising or shrinking in the current political and economic climate here in the United States and globally. So Michael, the election of Barack Obama as U.S. President, what do you think that means in terms of U.S. empire? Are we going to see any major changes in kind of U.S. military and economic footprint in the world over the next 4 years?
Well, I think that the election of Obama coincides with a dramatic moment in the history of the world, in the history of the global economy, and the situation that the United States finds itself in. I don't think people were conscious of this when they voted for him, but obviously the economy was in a tailspin when they voted, and I think that his election reflects the fact that the United States can no longer fight wars in multiple places on the globe and address the problems at home, and that his election and the policies that he's adopted is a reflection of a new reality that we find ourselves in. And everything he says is a reflection of that reality, that we have to repair the damage at home and be more modest about our foreign policy. And I do think that this is connected to the problem of empire.
Do you think we're going to be seeing a kinder, gentler empire under Obama, or really a transformation of U.S. relationship with the globe?
I certainly think that the era of empire or empires is over for good, because as we understand from historians, and I've learned a lot from Paul Kennedy, the author of the book The Rise and Fall of the Great Powers, that the maintenance of empire, however you want to call it, is extremely costly, and it requires that the home country, the imperial power, have a booming and rising economy, and that it have enormous resources to be able to sustain overseas military adventures, one after the other. And it's clear that this country no longer has that capacity, nor do I see any other power on the face of the earth with that sort of capacity. All of the great powers today are facing economic stress and decline at home, and all are going to have to devote all the resources that they command towards internal renewal. So the very notion of empire no longer exists, is no longer within reach of any country on earth, and I don't see that that will be in the cards for the foreseeable future.
One last question. Given these constraints, economic here at home, why aren't we seeing, for instance, a 50% cut in the military budget here in the United States, and the use of that money, for instance, for a stimulus package or draw down the debt, the health care package? I mean, there are a number of demands on our resources here. Why are we still maintaining the same military spending levels?
I think the answer is partly that the defense budget has become a form of economic sustenance for the U.S. economy, and has been for a very long time. It maintains a large number of corporations that provide jobs and income for many communities. Typically, the defense programs are spread throughout 50 U.S. states, so that every congressperson has a stake, every congressional district has a stake in these programs. There are bases everywhere. So it's very hard to dismember this military-industrial complex, as we call it. And there is the legacy of empire. We have built up this establishment since the Spanish-American War over 100 years ago, and it's going to take a while to disassemble this imperial apparatus. I think there's an understanding that this is now necessary if we're to restore our own economy, and that this will have to happen, but it's going to take a while.
Thank you, Michael Klare. You can follow more of this discussion of empire at our site at Foreign Policy in Focus, www.fpif.org, where we'll be covering this issue of empire over the next several months and looking at it in terms of the Obama administration and its foreign policies.